Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian. I am here today at the Rock Island Auction House. I'm checking out some of the guns that they're going to be selling in their upcoming June of 2016 regional auction. And I found a cool French shotgun to take a look at. Now, this kind of appears to be a typical side-by-side, two barrels, two triggers sort of shotgun. And shotguns are kind of boring, right? Well, this one's a little different, and it's really kind of cool. So I found this, I recognized the manufacturer's name, and I decided, we really ought to take a closer look at this. So this was made by a fellow named Breech Darne, who is, at least to me, better known for designing some machine guns during the interwar period. The Darne machine guns weren't particularly successful, but they're another interesting gun. So I wanted to see what this fellow and what this company were doing a little bit earlier. Well, between 1879 and 1884, Darne developed a rotary breech shotgun. And his first models were exposed hammer guns. And then in 1892, he developed a hammerless version of the gun. And that's what we have here, is an 1892 hammerless rotary breech Darne. Then in 1897, he came up with the one design that really turned out to be popular for him for shotguns. And that was a sliding breech, which is pretty cool. There's actually a locking lever, and then the whole breech assembly slides backwards over the wrist. And those really took off commercially. These rotary guns, not so much. They weren't all that popular. And after he got the sliding breech, I believe he had one more weird experimental version of a rotary gun, but that was it. Then, they'd found the one that worked and they stuck with it. So these rotary guns are kind of uncommon, and the mechanism is not something that we have seen made in the United States. And so we should take a look at it. So let's do just that. Okay, let's look at how this works. We've got no hammers, of course. This is the hammerless version. We've got two triggers, two barrels, and a lever on the side, and a lever on the top. Now, this lever is the safety. You can flip it to either side, and it renders the triggers non-functional. So that's that bit. Now, to actually open the gun, what you do is pull this lever up 90 degrees, and then the whole thing rotates like that. And when you get it all the way over, you then hit a spring-loaded piece where you are now running the extractor. From a different angle, lift the lever, rotate the block over. There's our extractor under spring tension. You would then take your two shells get ejected, or get extracted and dumped on the ground. You then put two new shells in, rotate this back up, push the lever down. When you lift the lever up, you actually recock both of the hammers. And then when you push down, you're locking this block in place. Now, this lever prevents the breech from rotating, and it's also camming the breech forward against the barrels. So if you look closely here, you can see that when this gun is unlocked and open, there's really no gap here, and we have a gap of just a millimeter or two up at the front. When I push the lever down, that whole block cams forward. Now we have a gap back here. You can see that again, there to there. So that's what the locking system on this is. This block is getting pushed up against the barrels to seal. So let's take this apart and see how that actually works internally. So I'm going to loosen up this screw, which I actually already did, and then we can take the wooden handguard off. Now we have this mechanism. Now what I'm going to do is unlock the breech, rotate this around, and then I can rotate the stock and pull this out of there, and then I can get, there we go, the breech block out. So this is our self-contained breech block. It's got the firing pins, the firing pin springs. This is the cam track for the extractor that runs against spring tension. Trigger mechanisms all in there, safety's in there, everything. That's the working bits of the gun all in one block. And of course the lever for recocking and locking and unlocking. Now this slides back and forth. You saw that when I lock it, it pushes up against the barrels. What's actually moving is this locking block right here. Now you can see our breech block there, and when I push this lever down, when I lock it, that block is pushed backwards. So when the gun's properly set up and in battery, like this, you can see we're nice and flush back here. When I push this lever down, it's going to push this breech block forward. Now, because everything is connected around this central pin, this works as a locking mechanism. So the barrels are connected out here, and they can't move. The recoil, or the breech block, the locking cam is pushing against the back here, which is this same bar. So the only place that this breech block can go is flush up against the barrels. And as long as that stays tight, everything's nice and safe and effective. Now, this center stock can fit into the barrel and put it in 180 degrees out of alignment. And then we have this flat spring right here, which snaps into this little V groove. So right there, this is locked in place. So for disassembly, I can rotate the stock like this, and that spring just keeps tension on it so that that doesn't happen during normal course of operation. Now, our breech block would be sitting in here, sliding just slightly back and forth to lock and unlock. So the marks on the top of this gun appear to be totally worn off, but we do have a plethora of proof marks and the like down here underneath. What we can see, we have this mark from Rotary Cizeron, and he was the guy who actually manufactured the barrels. So Darne put the gun together, but they would have basically bought ready-to-go barrels from someone who specialized in making barrels, and in this case, that would be Cizeron. Canon de Surette is a safety barrel. We have a cast steel guarantee. This is Médaille d'Or, or a gold medal, which means Cizeron at some point won a gold medal, and so he got to use that to advertise on his guns. We have Saint-Étienne proofs here, showing that both of these barrels were proof marked, and then the 15.8 is the bore diameter in millimeters, and that's 15.8 millimeter, which would be 20 gauge. Lastly, we have this little rabbit stamp, and up here it says choke proofed. Down here, Perfection. These are both improved choke barrels. So that's what this whole mess of markings means. You can see that we do have a serial number 621. There you go. 621 on the barrels, which does match the number on the stock assembly and on the breech block. And looking at the very back here, this is our ejector or extractor, which is a very tough spring. Normally when you're running that with the breech block, you've got a lot of leverage. That's a little tough to run with your hand. But when you push this down that way, it pushes the ejector out, or extractor out. I keep trying to get those two mixed up. So if you get it just in the right light, and I've kind of got it there, you can see that there's just a little bit of a shinier area right on the top here, a rectangular section. And that's where the locking block from the breech block is actually contacting this rear surface. So that's going to get, that's going to be your primary point of pressure back from the barrels against the breech block and into this every time you fire. So it'll look a little bit more worn. There's our breech face with that 621 serial number once again, right there. Overall, this is a pretty petite little shotgun. It's lighter and smaller than I would have expected from looking at the pictures, and yeah, it's really cool. It kind of exudes that late 19th century continental sort of feel, at least to me. I find these designs really interesting. All right, now we've seen how that all comes apart and goes together. Let's take one more look at the operating cycle now that we have it in some context. So open this, pull it down to the side, extract your 2 spent shells, put 2 new shells in, lift up, and push down. Now if you are a right-handed person, like this was obviously intended for, you are holding the gun out here with your support hand. You reach up with your trigger hand, operate that, grab your shells, put your shells in, relock it, go back to the trigger. It's actually a very convenient, handy, ergonomic system. Really quite cool. Well, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Definitely an unusual, cool type of shotgun to take a look at. You know, shotguns are boring until you start realizing the vast number of different ways that designers came up with to make them work. So this is, I think, actually a really cool little gun. It's handy, it seems to run well. It's not in the greatest condition. You know, a lot of the finish is gone, but I think it's got a whole ton of character. So If you'd like to try and get it for yourself, take a look at the link in the description text below. That will take you to Rock Island's catalog page on this little guy, and you can take a look at their pictures and their description and place a bid right there through their website. Thanks for watching.